Alright, take two. Apparently my brain is absolute slush today. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. And yes, we're getting back into Down the Rabbit Hole series, where as of right now, we are covering the timeline, the history of the Anti-Vax movement. Now, we're going to just kind of shoot right through the trigger warnings and jump right in where we left off on last Friday, okay? And I'm going to warn you, being autistic and all, that apparently my words are incredibly jumbled today. More than likely because a new medication has been added into my regular mornings. I do apologize for that in advance, alright? Also, we do have this channel marked not for kids for a reason. We do use profanity. We cover some pretty dark subjects. So if your child's 16 and younger and they're watching this, parental supervision is very much advised. Also, if you hear weird back of the throat noises, me clearing my nose, anything of that nature, I apologize in advance. I have no idea whatsoever how to edit these videos, and I really hate stopping them, deleting, and starting again. So apologies for that as well, alright? Okay, jumping in where we left off. This is the green arm vaccines. Now, this is the one you're going to be hearing a lot about from RFK Jr. because he was one of the main purveyors of, in regards attacking the thermocell, the mercury-containing compound found in vaccines. So let's go ahead and start going over this here. We will eventually get into more depth regards to that because, kind of like the JRC does, RFK Jr. loves to leave a whole lot of things out of context and doesn't do very well with putting things in their proper perspective. Alright. Thermocell, a mercury-containing compound used as a preservative in vaccines, has also been the center of a vaccination and autism controversy. This was huge in the early 2000s, folks, in particular. I remember it very distinctly because, yeah, that was around the time of my 20s when I was going head-to-head with some of the nastiest, evilest anti-vax folks I have ever come across, or have ever come across again since then. Although there is no clear scientific evidence that small amounts of thermocell in vaccines cause harm, leading U.S. public health and medical organizations and vaccine manufacturers agreed that thermocell should be reduced or eliminated from vaccines as a precautionary measure in 1999. In 2001, the Institute of Medicine's Immunization Safety Review Committee issued a report concluding there was not enough evidence to prove or disprove claims that thermocell in childhood vaccines causes autism, attention deficit hypersensitivity disorder, or speech and language delay. Let me provide just a little bit more context. I'm not going to go into it too deep. We'll be going through all of that with fine-tooth comb a little bit later. But you deserve a little bit of context. If you have ever eaten tuna from a can, there is more mercury involved from eating a can of tuna than there is in receiving a vaccine. You could get more mercury into your system eating a can of SpaghettiOs than you can getting a vaccine. It's a very small amount. It's just put in there to help preserve the life of said vaccine. Okay? So, I've never understood the insanity that was surrounding the whole Thermazole controversy. To this day. To this day. Alright? It's never made any sense to me, because seriously, think about the canned goods that you get every time you go to the grocery store. Quite a few of those cans have small trace amounts of mercury that is a part of the can. Some of it does correlate to the food inside the can. Have you ever ate those and then all of a sudden you could see sounds and taste colors? If the answer is no, then you see what I'm saying, right? Okay, let me go ahead and continue. A more recent report by the committee favors the rejection of a causal relationship between Thermacell-containing vaccines and autism. Even with this finding, some researchers continue to study the possible links between Thermacell and autism. Essentially, this has been what I have already said and have been saying for over the last 20 years in regards to that particular debate. When you keep studying the same thing and keep getting the same results and you keep throwing money at it, you would actually get more out of your buck if you just put all that money you were going to put into another study that was going to give you the exact same results in the middle of your floor, and then, light it on fire. Like a little pit right in the middle of your living room floor. And then that money would have been more useful than throwing it towards another one of these studies. How many times do you have to be proven wrong before you accept that you are actually wrong? Right? Just saying. At least if you're lighting it on fire in the middle of the floor, you can at least get some heat and some light from the money. Right? Just saying. Today, Thermacell is no longer used in most childhood vaccines, though some forms of influenza vaccine available in multi-dose vials may contain the preservative. I just do the one shot and done. I've had an irrational fear of needles ever since I was a little kid. And no, it wasn't me freaking out because vaccine. It was me freaking out because it's a giant needle that's getting ready to go into my skin. It's an irrational fear that has nothing to do with the debates behind all of this. And yes, I've had people actually try to convince me, no, like on a subconscious level, no. On a subconscious level, I trust my mother, who's been in healthcare for over 40 years. Okay? Despite the scientific evidence, concerns over the Thermacell have led to a public Green Our Vaccines campaign, a movement to remove toxins from vaccines for fear that the substances lead to autism. Okay, why has there never been a campaign to remove the mercury from tuna cans? Let's be real a moment. If you can, there we go. If technically you can get more mercury from eating a can of tuna than receiving a vaccination, Wouldn't it make more sense to campaign to get the mercury out of the tuna cans instead? Because even if there was a link at all, I'm always going to eyeball the more likely candidate, wouldn't you? But I have never seen that happen. It's always blaming the vaccines, even now. And it's not just that. It's just the anti-vaxxers won't even be willing to consider any other possible causes for this diagnosis. That should send a red flag up for anyone. If this was a true scientific inquiry, you would be open to the discussion that it could very possibly be something else, such as heredity and environmental factors. It wouldn't be so absolutely solely hyper-focused on just vaccines, right? If you are insisting that that is the only answer, that tells me you have what's going to be confirmation bias. So no matter what studies you do, you are going to see what you want to see. Which means you can't really trust the results. Right? Just saying. Celebrity Jenny McCarthy, don't get me started on that woman. I will go off until the final trumpet sounds for doomsday. I will go off. You have no idea my level of... Gotta be nice. Gotta be nice. I gotta be nice. I despise her with the entirety of my soul. Her advocacy group, Generation Rescue, and the organization Talk About Curing Autism have spearheaded these efforts. Jenny McCarthy believes that if you put us on a non-gluten diet, that it will cure you of your autism. This is the individual that you are trusting in regards to pertinent medical information and believing in regards to the safety of vaccines. Okay? You see, back in the day, her son was diagnosed as autistic. And she put him on this gluten-free diet. And she said, through a book, that by doing so, she cured him of his autism. There's a whole lot of problems with that. Let me start, because I knew it was BS, but I decided to conduct a small experiment. Okay? Right after I first saw that nonsense. And I went on a gluten-free diet for about half a year. Nothing in regards to my autistic traits changed. I did not have less or more behaviors than I had previously before the experiment. Literally, everything was the same. So, when it comes to talking about things such as vaccines, am I going to trust an individual like RFK Jr., who once tried to convince us all that there was a worm inside of his head? Or Jenny McCarthy, who claims that she cured her son's autism with a non-gluten diet? Or am I going to trust my mother, who has worked inside healthcare inside ERs for over 40 years. But nobody wants to talk about that, right? You gotta really look at the individuals who are pushing this narrative. You got to question your leaders or you're in a cult. Point blank. If those leaders turn hostile when you begin to ask questions, then you shouldn't be following them anywhere. Anybody that's genuine in an actual effort to study and see what's going on is always going to be open to different possible causes. They're going to be willing to take a look at all avenues, all different things that might factor in. They're not going to be gung-ho on only a single thing and ignore everything else. Alright? Okay, we're going to read the conclusion here, and then we'll go ahead and sign off for this particular video. So, conclusion. Although the time periods have changed, the emotions and deep-rooted beliefs, whether philosophical, political, or spiritual, that underlie vaccine opposition have remained relatively consistent since Edward Jenner introduced vaccination. So, this has been a debate going on for a very long time, and as you can see here, they use quite a few sources. We are still not necessarily done with going over the anti-vaxxer timeline, the growing of the movement, but this does give us a nice overall view in regards to how this thing got off the ground. So, we are going to go ahead and close out for today, folks. So, we don't get very many views on this channel, and the few we do get do tend to get removed from time to time. So if you could, please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe. Please, folks, don't forget to get the comments. I do appreciate your time, and as always, folks, we here at Spilling Tea absolutely do. Hope you have a good one. I will see you all next time. Bye-bye, everyone.